Hey guys, today we are talking about the three rock types, which are igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Igneous rocks are formed when magma cools and becomes a solid. This can happen either above or below the Earth's surface. So magma is typically a liquid, and when it cools, it becomes solid, and those are igneous rocks. Some fun facts about igneous rocks: the atoms and molecules that are the teeny tiniest pieces that make up the rocks, they rearrange themselves into grains as the minerals cool. When the magma cools slowly, they have opportunity to form larger grains, but when the magma cools very quickly, they don't have time to form those grains. And we'll talk a little bit about what those different types may look like. There are over 700 different types of igneous rocks, and igneous rocks make up about 95% of the Earth's surface. So all over the Earth's surface, most of those are igneous rocks. That's not to say that the whole Earth is mostly igneous rock, but the surface is. Igneous rocks can have crystals, air bubbles, or a glassy surface, and we'll see some examples of all of those. I also want to show you this really cool video of a volcano. So it shows two people who dive down inside a volcano, and so they get super close to magma. as we work through our rock cycle unit, we are going to spend a lot of time with the 3 rock types as well as magma and sediments. So I wanted to make sure you have a good idea of what magma looks like, what magma is. On the surface of the magma, you could see there were some parts that were black. That would be the cooler parts of the magma. But the little piece that flew out, when they picked it up and they touched it, he said it's still about 600 degrees. Super, super hot. But I thought it was really neat to see magma that close up and in that way. So I wanted to make sure that you had a good idea of magma. So we have, just went over igneous rocks. I want to show you a couple examples of igneous rock. This is obsidian. If you've ever played Minecraft, you know that magma mixed with water creates obsidian. That's because when magma cools down, it really does form obsidian. Next we have pumice. Pumice is full of holes, air bubbles. And so pumice is very lightweight. It's very, it has very low density. Andesite is another type of igneous rock. Gabbro, you can start to see some of these grains. Basalt is another lightweight igneous rock, but it's black. Granite is a rock that you've probably heard of before. A lot of times granite is used in countertops. And it's got a lot of grains, a lot of like crystals that form because it cools slowly. So it has that time for those crystals to form, those minerals and molecules to come together. Diorite is another that cools slowly and forms those crystals or grains. Gabbro. And that leads us to sedimentary rocks. So sedimentary rock is formed by sediment that is deposited over time. So sediment is just teeny tiny little pieces of rock. So if you have ever seen sand, especially looked close up, sand is basically just teeny tiny little pieces of rocks. And that's what sediment is. Sand would be an example of a sediment. So these sediments, these little pieces of rock, are deposited or kind of stacked over time. And as they stack, as they pile up, increased pressure smushes them together to form a rock. A lot of times this happens at the bottom of lakes and oceans. So we've got, or rivers would be another example. We've got sediment, little pieces of rock that are smushed and cemented together. So sedimentary rock can form a lot of different types of rock. They can include minerals, small pieces of plant, and other organic matter. Organic would be living or once living. So fossils would be typically sedimentary rock, and it includes that organic, that once living matter. Coral, crushed up pieces of shells, those are all examples of sediment, and that is then forms sedimentary rock. So sediment is compressed or squished over a long period of time. They can form layers called strata. So sometimes, especially think about the Grand Canyon. If you've ever seen pictures, you can see colorful layers in the Grand Canyon. That happens in sedimentary rocks, and those layers are called strata. And where the earth is very rocky, a lot of times that's sedimentary rock. Amber is an example of sedimentary rock. That's fossilized tree sap. We have breccia, and you can see here it's just a bunch of small pieces of rock that have been smushed together. Coal is an example of sedimentary rock. A conglomerate, again, we can see those small pieces. Gypsum was one of our minerals from the gizmo the other day. Gypsum is a sedimentary rock. Dolomite. Dolomite is a rock that sometimes has fossils in it. Limestone. If you've ever seen limestone, it's frequently used with construction or like building or statues. Salt. If you have ever left super salty water, when the water evaporates, the salt forms crystals, and that would be an example of a sedimentary rock. Sandstone, literally sand that has been compressed to form a stone. Shale and siltstone are some other examples of sedimentary rocks. Next we have metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks always start as a already formed rock, and they are changed or metamorphosed into a different type of rock using heat and pressure. If you remember learning about butterflies in elementary school, metamorphosis is when the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. It changes from one thing into another. That's what a metamorphic rock is. It changes from one rock into a new type of rock. And it's changed by that heat and pressure. It can happen a lot of times deep under the Earth's surface where it's very hot and very full of pressure. Or it can happen where tectonic plates collide or rub against each other because there's a lot of pressure and heat there too as well. Some fun facts about metamorphic rock. Most of the metamorphic rocks that are on the surface are brought from the surface through what's called uplift and erosion. We'll talk about those later. Metamorphic rocks can be formed from or start as igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, or other metamorphic rocks. One metamorphic rock can go through additional heat and pressure and change into a totally different metamorphic rock. The word metamorphic literally means changed form. Meta is change and morph is form. So here we have hornfels, which hornfels, we've got, we're going to talk about schist real quick. Schist is metamorphosed phyllite, and you can see it's got kind of those, you can see almost where it looks like it's been smushed. You'll be able to see that in some metamorphic rocks. Next we have gneiss, G-N-E-I-S-S, it's pronounced nice. That is when you add extra heat and pressure to schist and you form gneiss. Phyllite is slate that has been metamorphosed. So slate was one of the, slate is another metamorphic rock, which starts as shale, and shale is a sedimentary rock. So we have shale, a sedimentary rock that has heat and pressure, and it is changed into slate, which you can see it still has kind of those layers. It really looks pretty similar to shale, but then when you add additional heat and pressure to slate, it becomes phyllite. Quartzite is metamorphosed sandstone, another sedimentary rock that goes through heat and pressure to form quartzite. And here we have serpentine. So just a couple examples of each of the different rock types. We will spend a lot of time talking about how rocks change from one form to another and possibly back again. So we will learn a lot about the rock cycle, but I wanted to give you a brief overview of the 3 different rock types. Let me know if you have any questions.